Hello, everyone. I think we're ready to begin. This is Ben from Metric Insights. I just wanted to thank everyone for joining the webinar, which is a webinar in an ongoing series. So today we're going to be taking a look at different parts, or we have, taken a look at different parts of the platform in previous webinars. And if you've missed any of those webinars, please feel free to take a look at them on our blog. And so this webinar naturally will be focusing on Push Intelligence Platform's ability to distribute content. And so just a couple housekeeping items. You have me, Ben Tonin, from Metric Insights, as well as Louis Bedard. And so lines will be muted. And please, at any time, if you have questions, feel free to type them in the Q&A or chat windows on the Zoom interface, and we will get to them at the end. And also, please, again, if you have any need to see past webinars or this current webinar, take a look at the blog on our website, and also it will be recorded and the link will be sent out afterwards. And so very simple agenda for today. So we're going to start off with a little recap or refresher for those who might not, either those who have already seen past webinars, or if we have any new attendees. We're going to briefly recap the primary problems within the BI and analytics industries that Push Intelligence solves, and then also discuss the 4 primary Push Intelligence components used to solve them. Just as a refresher, again, obviously focusing on that distribution component. And again, any questions, type them into the chat or Q&A windows, and we'll get to them at the end. And so starting with these primary problems that we are looking to solve with Push Intelligence in the BI and analytics industries, it really all stems obviously from user engagement, right? And so there's 4 primary problems in this industry as to why these users are not engaging with data. And so the first being siloed systems. And so this is to say, especially when we're talking about enterprise scale companies, but all the way down to SMB, these companies typically have so many different BI and analytics tools and so many different data sources. And every department might use their own spice, their own stack, and then a lot of the times it might be closed off to users. And so what it equates to is really playing hide and seek with your users in terms of them being able to find the right data at the right time. The right data is out there. It's just impossible. It's not humanly practical for them to search through all these different tools and all these sources and find it. And let's say they do find the right dashboard or the right report, whatever it might be. There's typically so many different data points on that report or dashboard and so many different filter combinations, it's not practical for them to be able to sift through all these combinations and sift through all these data points and find where the little critical events, the significant changes in the metrics that they care about are happening. And finally, there is no system typically to ensure that once these critical events or significant changes have been identified, that users are taking the right steps in order to resolve these issues. And so Push Intelligence is the way to solve this problem of user engagement and directly addressing those 4 problems we just talked about. And so the 4 primary components to the Push Intelligence platform will be covered in this slide. And so the first is our consolidated portal. We've covered that in a previous webinar. Again, just as a refresher, this is the means of connecting to everything a company has within their data stack. And when I say everything, it could be BI tools, cloud applications, underlying raw data sources, it doesn't matter. Connect to everything, bring it all in one place, organize it intuitively, make it easy for users to find exactly what they're looking for, fast and easy, without having to hunt through multiple different places, simply put. And so this is the component, obviously, we're going to be focusing on today, is our enterprise distribution engine. And so it kind of lines up in an evolution of steps to where you're providing this data in the most meaningful way to your users and ensuring engagement. So the first saying, okay, great, we have everything in one place through the consolidated portal, it's easy to find, but now you still have to combat that problem, that human element of users typically not willing or able to go in and hunt for this data, even though it's made in, it's collected in an easy place. So enterprise distribution allows you to push this data to your users in the right format via the right channel at the right time. And so these formats, it could be a snapshot of a pre-filtered dashboard or a metric chart, whatever it might be. And when we're talking about channels, it could be email, SMS, phone tray alerts. We'll get into that in a little more detail, obviously, through the webinar. And then the third component, again, as a refresher, is our anomaly detection and event-based alerting component. And so we have everything in one place, the consolidated portal. We can push it out to users, and then the question becomes, what do we push them? We don't want to push them all of the data all of the time that they have access to. We only want to push them the critical data that they need to be made aware of right now. And so we determine what that critical data is for your users by tracking metrics across the entire organization, determining where these critical events are occurring, determining which users they pertain to, and then how to push it to them. And finally, this goes back to the unfortunate reality that there's typically no system in place ensuring that once we've spotted something, a critical event or a significant change of some time, there's no system in place ensuring that the right people are taking the right steps to resolve those issues. So our managed alerts interface, we'll actually touch on this briefly in the webinar today. It empowers the user to see what is going on with these alerts and notifications after they've been sent. What is the priority? What is the status? Who is the assignee? Are the right steps being taken? And so this is just kind of a very high level outline of what we're going to be discussing today in terms of us talking about the distribution of content through the Push Intelligence portal. I won't bore you with each line item, but just so we understand and can get on the same mindset, the reality is that distributing content is a very difficult problem to solve, right? People need exactly the right data at the right time with the right level of detail and context, and you need to avoid spamming them. That is the BI and analytics team's worst nightmare, is for somebody to start receiving emails from them and they have a little designated folder in which they drag it, drop it in there, never see it again. So the content that gets sent needs to be relevant and it needs to be critical in most situations. And so do they need this boils down to the question, do they need a metric, a dashboard? Is there context that you can send with this content this context that you can send with this content that you distributed? These are all questions that a tool like ours strives to answer. And so there are different methods and needs depending on the type of information being conveyed, is essentially the point here. And so we're going to cover a number of different ways of distributing content, from daily informational emails to mission critical alerts that require action, whatever it might be. We're going to cover everything and how Push Intelligence tackles it. And so this first item that we're looking at here is digests and bursts. And so both favorites, digests, and bursts allow the user to receive content in any format and from any source. And so when we talk about these different formats, it's actually a very important concept, right? A user, either he or she is used to receiving data in a particular format, and anything that strives from that might set them off, or it might confuse them, whatever it might be. So Push Intelligence allows various formats to be sent in terms of distributing content. It might be anything from a metric chart to a personalized report to a pre-filtered snapshot of a third-party dashboard, along with various other options. Louis will get into that in more detail. And so when we talk about sources, again, I mentioned it briefly earlier, it could be anywhere, for anything from a BI tool to your cloud applications or your source systems or your data warehouse. It really doesn't matter to us. Push Intelligence is a very agnostic system, so it could be coming from just about any source you could name. And again, so this kind of boils back to our webinar on content creation that discusses all the different types of content that we can include on the platform and distribute. So if you guys want to check that out, please, it's on the blog as well. And so in talking about the first means of distributing content, favorites digests. Favorites digests are a way for users to receive updates on content that's important to them every day. You'll see in the demo that users can select which content is important to them by favoriting. So it gives them the ability to kind of zone in this massive universe of data that is just confusing, it's inundating, zone it into items that they truly care about through a favoriting system and start developing a favorites digest. And so you can also attach attach content in the appropriate formats within the favorites digest, which we mentioned. And then also Metric Insights on a daily basis pushes an email to each user based on the significant changes in the critical data events that have occurred with their personalized set of content. So it's a very personal means of distributing. And so if we think about a real world example of that, the value of a favorites digest can really be seen in running a sales organization. At the beginning of the quarter, I'm interested in building the pipeline, right? So then I begin favoriting a lot of different marketing and pipeline oriented metrics to get updates on every day. But then it's getting down to the end of the quarter, right? I'm more interested in how our deals are progressing. So I add more opportunity and deal focused metrics so I can manage all of that without having to rely on the BI team to give me what I need. So it's very flexible, the favorites digest system. And so moving on to bursts. Bursts are content that needs to be pushed out to multiple people in the org on a schedule. So here, the best way to imagine the value of bursts is really from the perspective of an analyst wanting to push out content to a group of business users. That analyst can add content to folders. It can create a schedule that content gets sent out on. And you can subscribe people to receive the content on that schedule. And so typically bursts get sent out via email, but there's also an SMS option that Louis will actually talk about. And so another real world example of the value of bursts might be around, again, back to the sales leader use case. A sales leader who wants your sales team to be prepared for the weekly sales meeting by subscribing them to this, sales focused burst that you set up. So there's no confusion, there's no discrepancies, everyone's receiving the same content. They're coming into the meeting with on the same page and ready to discuss on the same level. So, and with that, I'm going to hand it over to Louis, who will actually jump into the demo and give you examples of these.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ben. Wow, a lot of things to talk about here. This is great. So great introduction. To get started, wanted to Ben mentioned our blog. I thought it would be a good idea just to show you our blog page. So metricinsights.com/blog will show you the past webinar that we recorded on anomaly detection, content creation, and it's kind of an overview webinar as well. So we're going to some interesting and different themes throughout those series of webinars, and hope you'll get value out of those as well. So going back to the distribution of information, and I like that Ben just talked about the digest email, right? So what you're looking at right now, this is the home page of Metric Insights. You guys should be all well familiar with that. Again, each and every component in this application that you see, it's a tile-based system. Each and every tile is an independent element, an independent KPI, and it could be different types of elements as well. So one of them are KPIs, we call them metrics inside of Metric Insights. So all these with the value positioned here, you see those are metrics. It could be a link to your favorite business intelligence dashboard. We support most business intelligence applications. We showcase a few of them here, from Tableau to Power BI to ClickView, Business Object, and so on. And so that's kind of the homepage of the application. It really serves as a portal to all your different content that you have within the organization. I like to talk about it almost as a business intelligence portal, really, everything, including third-party content data that you see here. So that is that's the homepage of the application. So a typical user would come into the application here and would have access to a series of categories. Obviously, heavy security applied to our system. So we work with all type of enterprise security systems. But in other words, you can imagine that someone that comes in and belongs to the sales and marketing folder, as an example, sales and marketing group, would only see those two categories here on the left-hand side. And really, those categories would be not visible to them. And then the application is smart enough to be able to give you filtered views access to your data as well. So someone that represents a particular region would only see that region and not the others in that folder. So the concept goes to, when Ben was talking about the digest email, we work very closely to what we talked about, a curated content and what's important for each and every users. So when you peruse your different categories like this and you see content that you like, you can highlight them with a yellow star like this. And what ends up happening is it becomes part of your favorite content. So that's how each and every user was able to create their own list of favorite KPIs, report, dashboard that they wish to see. And this list can be interactive, as Ben mentioned, meaning that at one point, you know, if this sales dashboard here is not as important at the end of the quarter than at the beginning, you can remove it from your favorite easily, and so on. So the result of selecting all those styles here to put in the favorite digest like this, or favorite content, is going to be reflected in our favorite digest. And this is what we're looking at here right now. So all the content that I put in my favorite folder appears here in this digest email. This digest email can be sent on any frequency that you wish to receive it. Could be daily, weekly, monthly, hourly even. So yeah, you would receive this information this way. And when you see this digest email, it's made out of several different sections. On top, you see your top movers, all your KPIs that you're currently following, and the top movers here. The summary of all the different KPIs that you're also following, along with the chart that made up this KPI. And if an alert is generated, you will see here part of this email as well. And as I'm scrolling down my email, as you notice here, you have your Tableau dashboard here, business intelligence dashboard, reports, and other business intelligence dashboard here. This here is showcasing Tableau, Power BI, ClickSense, and even Salesforce type report. So all in all, what's important for the business users is to be able to receive all this information from the entire enterprise into one single location. This particular email we're looking at right now is made out of 8 different data sources, but the business users, all they care about is having the KPI that they will receive. Now, another note onto what Ben was talking about. What the KPIs that are going to make it part of this dashboard is only KPIs and report that have been updated since the last time you receive a digest email. So if that KPI here has not been updated since the past 2 weeks, it would only make it on the first email that you would receive, but then would not come in into the other subsequent email until there is an update to these KPIs. So this again helps you remove the noise of looking at the same KPI all the time and just focusing your attention on KPIs that matters. So that is the concept of our personalized digest email that is made out of your favorite folder or your favorite content here. Now, there come use cases as well where users would love to be able to create a folder or a category that they can share with other people on their team, other group, people in their group, and so on. So for that, if you want to create some kind of a content that you love to share, we have this, this concept of folders. And in this case here, we created the sales management folder. The objective of this particular example here is that, let's say you'd want to distribute to your sales team on a weekly basis specific sets of reports and dashboard, no matter what the situation is, meaning that if those dashboards have changed since last time they've been sent or not, the report have changed or not, they just want to receive this nice digest report on a weekly basis. So that's possible to do this, this type of thing. So for the first thing that we did here is we created a sales management folder that has been shared with my sales management team. And now I'm realizing, taking a look at this, that I would love to add one other content here to my folders. I can drag and drop here, put it back in my sales management folder. At this point, I can decide to reorganize my tile. And now I see the information that I would like to go ahead and burst. So for bursting this information, simply need to right-click on that folder and say, I'd like to include this information in a new burst. So by going through this, so here we're talking about our sales management report. So it's the weekly digest, or we should call it digest report, yeah. And in this case here, I would like to put the content of my particular folders here. So we have selected that. The schedule, I would like this to be a weekly schedule. So I just want to send it on whatever schedule, in this case, once a week. And that schedule could be, in this case, it's going to be Sunday morning, could be, whatever time you want to set up. And I would like to send this information via email. Now, I'll take a pause here to discuss that it's also possible to send content like Excel spreadsheet or CSV files, etc., on via FTP to FTP servers and also to storage drive. So it's just possible for if you want to archive your report and digest, that it's possible to push them to those systems as well. Then after that comes the time to customize your email. So in this case, of course, you can select the any types of email templates. We support multiple different email templates here. In this case, I'll select this particular one. I can obviously customize the subject line and text and so on, and even having the ability to include a PowerPoint of the slides or the items that I have into this this burst email. So that you can see how well it has been run and who is going to receive this information. In this case here, it is my sales management team. So back to the result of that, once this digest has been gone and sent out, what will end up happening is you will receive a digest email with all the components we selected this way on a weekly basis with all your different dashboards. So in this case, Tableau dashboard, my Power BI, ClickSense, Salesforce again, and another type of report we just added in. And that will be sent directly to the users via Burst. So to shorten this, digest and favorite is personalized for one particular users versus if you create a folder that you want to share with colleagues, and then after that you like to burst information out, you would do this out of a folder. So Ben, with that being said, I think we can start discussing alerts.
Exactly. We're going to move on now to the distribution of content via alerts. And so it's when we say alerts, it's very important to understand our definition of this. Everyone hears alerts as they relate to independent BI tools most of the time, but we have a very different definition when we're talking about Push Intelligence Portal's ability to alert. So in the last webinar, we did a deep dive into anomaly detection and exception reporting, which is a very different and more complex way of uncovering these critical issues compared to other BI tools. And please, again, if you missed this webinar, feel free to go check it out on our blog. So when we talk about alerting, we're talking about how we tell people about those anomalies and exceptions, which is what we're going to talk about today, naturally. And so Louis is going to do a quick recap of metrics and how we uncover anomalies in time series data across multiple dimensions. And also then we will focus on how we can ensure that you're alerting users with the relevant content via the right channel, again, at the right time, and all the while, very important at this point, avoiding alert fatigue or spamming, right? So an example of this is, alerting is most effective when you want to communicate unknown spikes or trends in the data that people are not aware of. But it gets much more complex than that, as Louis will exhibit.
Fantastic. Great. Okay, so that brings us then to take a look at our particular alerts. So right now, what we're looking at is a KPI called daily sales, filtered for Canada. And so this is our metric, right? So when we load data inside of Metric Insights, this is how we're visualizing the content. And what you're noticing here on the right side of the screen, is kind of a little summary section that discuss the profiling really that Metric Insights does when we're ingesting data inside of our application. So we're calculating the percentage changes from data point to data point, moving averages, minimum, maximum, and so on. So when we're doing this, of course, what Ben was talking about, and you can look at our anomaly webinar, but statistical anomalies are automatically detected. We have an example of this here where 2 data points falls outside of that standard deviation. But to focus specifically on alerting today, as we're taking a look at this, we have the ability to create any set of complex alerting rules on our system. Let's talk about those different types of rules. The first one is, threshold-based values. So most business intelligence tools can do that. We can do it too, of course. So if you're above or below a specific value, we can alert you on that. You can even compare a data point to a prior value, or even better, against an average of prior value, where you may want to compare your Mondays to Mondays, your Saturdays to Saturdays, January to January, and things like that. The fourth one here, the volatility level band, is useful where sometimes you may want to create an alert where if a data point falls between 1 to 2 standard deviation, you may want to alert Ben, but if it falls between 2 to 3 standard deviation, then you alert myself and my manager. So it's possible to create different sets and thresholds of criteria that are being sent out to your users. And also, of course, if you have a target that you'd like to compare your KPI to a target, we can adjust them in and compare them this way. And when you start combining multiple different alerting rules together, you can create really complex different alerting scenarios. And when you set your rule here, so what we're asking us first, when you're setting your rules, you want a rule to be public or private. So in this case, I'd like to share it with my colleagues. So for the criteria we'll select today, I'll actually select the averages or prior value. I think it's an interesting segment here. So in this case, I would like to be alerted if my metric is 10% above or below my sales, or 10% above or below the average of the same day of the week for the last 30 days here. And yeah, for the last 30 days. And I would like this to look at my alerts if they happen one time out of the last X data point. So in this case, every time it happens, I would like to be notified for it. And then that's really important here is, how do I want to receive this information? Do I want to receive this information in email digest? Well, all my alerts are being grouped together at the end of the day. This is very important. You may want to receive it immediately, and we can send email via email, SMS, and phone alert tray as well. We have an app, a mobile app. We'll show you that in a second. And how does this happen? When the first time a condition is met, or every time it happens? So once we have that, then you can go ahead and simulate the number of alerts that will be received. And in this case here, I would like to know for the past 30 days for all my values. I have about 8 different countries right now, and it's calculating how many alerts will be generated with this particular percentages. So Ben was talking about the fact that you may want to tame down the noise and not spam people with too many alerts and whatnot. So the ability for you to simulate the number of alerts that this particular criteria would have generated over the past 30 days give you a good idea. And now it looks like, as this is simulating, that we're having quite a few alerts being generated. So in this case here, it says it would trigger 54 times. And now you see where those alerts would have been generated. So that's probably too much. So I can then go ahead and change my criteria, simulate again, and then you can imagine the same process of simulation comes down. And I think by increasing this percentages here, it will show me a much lower, amount of anomalies that would be detected. So that helps you kind of fine tune and dial in the nub for your alerts. Okay, so all of this is being simulated here, and in this case, looks like much less alerts. So I'm loving this. I think this criteria at 18% may make sense. So now you're seeing where those alerts are going to be seen. And if I want to see it visually for one particular dimensional values, it's even possible to simulate it for one dimensional values as well. So you'll see a chart with this appearing with where the alerts would have been generated over the past few months. So now we know that this has been said, and then after that, we're really starting to build the content. How does this email alert would look like in our example? So we have the ability to customize your subject, of course, your text, and so on. And more importantly, after this, the alert payload. So in this particular example here, if I would like to bring in a dashboard, let's say daily sales dashboard from from any other BI tools, and I would like this to be the payload of my report, my alert that has been sent. This is what my email would look like. So when we're generating those alerts, you can literally send out your business intelligence dashboard where the alert was generated with. And I can even send myself a test, and then I would receive a test email. Finally, the last part of this, discuss the manage alerts, where it's really possible to attach this alert to a particular workflow. And when you attach to the alert to a particular workflow, in this case, I'd like to add it to my sales operation workflow. What ends up happening is you can set up priorities to your alert, as many priorities as you want. You can assign someone to this, and so on. And when I save and assign the roles, that's where it would be brought. So the users will be brought to that screen. So all in all, going back to all this, the benefit of this is when you receive an email alert like this one, what will end up happening is you would receive literally your alert email in this particular format like this with the payload of your business intelligence system. In this case, it's a Tableau dashboard. So that's it for the alerting and the payload of this alert. And again, this payload could have come to my mobile phone and to SMS text as well. And we'll talk about this in a few minutes. So Ben.
Perfect. So yeah, we will be moving on to the third item, distributing content through the Push Intelligence platform to mobile. And so a truly comprehensive data strategy requires your users to be able to gain insights from relevant content no matter where they are, right? Mobile is just an undeniable fact and component of everyday life when we talk about how we consume data. And so what's important about the mobile experience is that we're only pushing content to the device in a way that makes sense for that user as they're going through this mobile experience. So when we think about how users typically consume data through mobile devices, the engagement paradigm is completely different, right? So for example, in most cases, it's not going to make sense for a user to view some massive dashboard and use all the filter capabilities while using that mobile device. It's just not practical. It's very hard. It's clunky. It's hard to gain those insights from those types of engagements. And so the strategy here needs to be more tailored to the mobile experience to ensure that these users are gaining the relevant insights that they're looking for, just as they would in the desktop experience, right? And so there's a couple different ways Push Intelligence does this. It could be anywhere from obviously offering native iOS and Android applications, the ability to browse all types of content, obviously going to be optimized for a mobile experience. Louis is going to take a look at the KPI view, how that differs from what you've already seen. Obviously, you will have the ability to see where these alerts are going, how they need to be responded to on the fly using mobile devices, collaboration, and really, anywhere from phone tray to SMS or wearable smartwatch, maybe Google Wear, Apple Watch alerts as well. And so I'm going to hand it over to Louis to take a look at all this.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ben. So let's go take a look at my phone right now, and you should be seeing the home page of my phone. Fantastic. Looks like it works. So what you're looking at right now is literally my phone, and we just opened up the Metric Insights application through the phone. So we're at the home page, and when you're at home, the first thing that you can see is the most popular KPI here. I have the ability to scroll, obviously, from one place to another. In this case here, I can then see all my favorite folders. So all the content that I had in my favorite folder is all available and visible here. So remember my Tableau dashboard, Power BI, and even all the KPIs that I was currently looking at inside of my favorite folders are all made available here. If I want to have further information, further detail, as an example for this Canada sales dashboard from Tableau, so you're literally looking at the Tableau dashboard here with comments, annotation, and so on being displayed here. And I do like the view of the metrics view as well. So any data points that I can click on this particular metrics via the phone here allows me to see the evolution of my KPI over a period of time. So those are my favorite, my personalized information. And then if you remember, I also had access to my folders. So the different types of folders, I had my key KPI folder and the sales management folder that we built together. It's also available here. In addition, for the mobile application, we can also see all the different alerts that you're currently subscribed to and assigned to. So we haven't talked much yet about manage alerts, but if I have an alert that has been, as an example, assigned to me, like this one here, I can decide to change the status of this particular alert, assign it to someone else, and so on. And I can do this for all the different alerts that I have in the system. And if I want to narrow them down to what I have to work on right now, of course, I can do this. And quite simply, that brings us back to the settings of this of our system. And in this case here, I'm looking at the executive brief. But if I turn this off and I come back in the home page in order to see detailed information, now you're seeing the same content. In this case, looking at our favorite, but in a much more detailed view. And if I open up any particular KPI here and I want to see what this KPI looks like and different alerts that were generated on this KPI and so on, you see it here as well. Along with, if you want to see the detail of all your different categories you have access to, they are available here as well. So, so that's it for this section of the mobile demo. And Ben?
Perfect. So now we're going to move on to the external tools section and talking about how we can integrate with other tools that you might be using in your business. So Push Intelligence is designed to allow users to gain these relevant insights from their data, no matter what system they might be working within, right? Everyone, most users in these organizations are used to a particular set of tools or systems that they like working within, and they want to gain these insights that Metric Insights can provide, but they don't want to have to go outside of them or log into multiple other places or go somewhere else. Right? It needs to be, it's crucial to be able to integrate with these systems for truly seamless and immersive experience. And so in the demo today, we're going to look at Slack as an example, just purely because of its meteoric rise and it's very pervasive. So we felt that would be appropriate. And so, I might, as a user, want to receive alerts in Slack, or I may, as part of my workflow, want to be able to query and discover content in Slack, and I may want to collaborate and share that content, all while remaining within Slack, as an example again. And so Louis and I are both working in Slack, and Louis, might ask a question about a particular metric, right? I don't want to have to go out and then log into Metric Insights or some other BI tool to hunt for it, and then go back into Slack, input this information and send it to Louis. Metric Insights make sure this doesn't happen, that everything's integrated and seamless in drawing these insights. And Louis is going to give you an example of how this works.
Fantastic, Ben. And as you were talking here, I switched back to our Slack interface. What you're looking at right now is literally looking into Slack. And for today, this morning, I just realized that Metric Insight just pushed me an alert here telling me that on this particular KPI here is meeting a criteria. In this case, is more than 2 standard deviation above the average for the past 30 days. So the alert was generated. And now I can obviously have the URL link that can bring me back to the application to be able to see further this alert and to investigate it further. So literally everything will go a full cycle here, bringing me back into the application for further analysis. But going back to Slack here, so that's one thing that we can do. The other thing that we can do now is be able to communicate via a third-party application like this one here via Slack to Metric Insights and get some results back. So as an example here, if I want to ask what were the Canada website visits, you do this out, Metric Insights go into Slack and then it's telling me, are you looking for this Canada website visit that I have? I said, yes, that's exactly what I want to see. So now I decide to share with people on my team that are on the same Slack channel. And if I share this, what ends up happening is that now everything has been shared with the team. And as you can see, even the chart that shows my website visits for Canada is being shown on the screen. So the ability to us to understand natural language like this, turn it over to the KPI we're looking at in order to generate and produce the image. So that's one thing that we can do as well. And if I want to research what's inside of my thing, so I would like to find out all the KPIs that are related to Canada. So I can do insights. Can you tell me all the KPIs that I have here? And in this case, let's say I'm interested in taking a look at my Canada daily sales from Tableau that has been certified. Again, I can go ahead and share that to my team, and then the preview will be there. So ability, again, to get your full picture. In this case, now we're taking a look at the same Tableau dashboard that we were looking at before, coming from Metric Insight directly into Slack. So that's it for that part. Ben, you want to quickly discuss the collaboration and manage alert?
Yeah, absolutely. So now we're approaching the the final, oh, excuse me, one moment. So this is the final section of the webinar. And so this manage alerts and collaboration is going back to that point that there typically is no system in place to ensure that the right steps are being taken to resolve these issues and critical data events once they've occurred. And also there's no, you need to be able to add context around these processes to make sure they're being taken care of as efficiently and effectively as possible, and the team's on the same page and working together. And so we've looked at alerts, and if you think an issue is critical enough to alert someone about it, you want to make sure that they've seen it, right? And so managed alerts are a way of ensuring that issues are both acknowledged, making sure, again, somebody is acknowledging they've received it naturally, and that they are resolved through multiple different workflows and processes that Louis is going to cover. And a bit part of this is capturing context, again, around collaboration, right? So once you're going through dealing with these issues, you want to make sure that people are better informed about where they stand in terms of stage or process, or are they being handled the right way? Is the team understanding how everything's being taken care of? It's very important. And so Louis is going to kind of show us how that works through the Push Intelligence portal.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ben, for the last section of our demo today. So so very nice. So when Ben is talking about manage alerts, so that's a good example of that. You would receive an email like this, and we require you to acknowledge this alert. So it's not required for every, this is for a manage alert email where you want to make sure that you're bringing this particular alerts to resolution. So in this particular example, you click on this manage alert email, and that, in essence, what ends up happening is that would bring you back into the screen here, into the Metric Insight screen, and where you have to update the alerts. So in this case, it wants you to acknowledge it. So say, okay, I'm acknowledging it. I'm working on this. Actually, I want to assign someone else on my team for this. Came the same priority level, give a little bit of instruction. And when I save this particular alert, is then going to be part of Dan's alerting inbox. So going back here to the top of the screen, everybody has an alerting inbox in Metric Insights, and you can see the different types of alerts that you're currently subscribed to, the one that you're currently assigned to, and so on. And then you have a full path of resolution about your alerts. So it's a full mechanism around Manage Alert that allows you to assign an individual, create escalation path, and really see what's happening so nothing falls through the crack. So that's it for this section, Ben.
So perfect. So as you can see, distribution of content, it's a very complex problem to solve. It's not just about emailing people random data or data that you think is generally important. It's critical that you're sending the right content to the right person via the right channel and at the right time. To ensure, you have to ensure that they're able to cut through all of this noise and focus on what's important. And so again, I just want to recap that obviously this and all other webinars will be included in our blog, and you can access them at any time. And again, a link will be sent out at the end. And at this time, we want to take a look, actually.
There's a few questions coming into our Slack channel here. So if you have any questions, you can just type them in and we'll address them.
Yeah, it looks like we have a couple now. So I'm going to address the first one. So the first one is, if I burst an email to a group of users and some of them do not have permission to see those reports, will they be sent? Louis the best answer there.
It's a good question, Ben. So of course, enterprise security system, you can imagine that you won't be able, that user really have filtered access and filtered view to report dashboard information that are being sent out. So if you include by mistake a dashboard or report that a user doesn't have permission to see, the system will filter them out in order to remove them from the digest or the burst being sent out.
Okay, perfect. And then the next one, it says, can we receive an alert on a wearable device such as a watch? Oh,
you touched on that before. It's a good point. So again, our mobile platform, mobile application works on both Android and iOS. And those platforms, of course, have wearable device working with them, and the push notification goes all the way through. So should you receive an alert on your phone and you're tagged with your watch, it will come there as well.
Perfect. I believe this is the last one we received. It's the BI teams. Yeah. So back to that point, it's a nightmare to start annoying people with alerts and just have them start disregarding the content that you're sending them. So this question is asking, do we have the ability to avoid, so when we say we have the ability to avoid alert fatigue, what exactly do we mean?
And and it's a good question. We kind of touched on that when we did the alert creation before. So as you saw, we can manage the workflow and kind of simulate in advance what will be the results of these particular alerting scenarios. So we do it this way, and we have a couple of other ways to make sure that the content that is being sent and received is adequate to what users wanted to see.
Perfect. And it looks like that is all the questions we received. So we're going to wrap this up. Again, we just want to thank everyone for joining the webinar, the latest in an ongoing series. As you can see there's some contact information for you if there's any questions or you would like to set up a demo for a deeper look. And again, we have a free trial option of the software available on the front page of our website, which is, or excuse me, you can go to the link provided. And then also we're going to have the next webinar on May 29th. And we're going to be looking at some very specific customer use cases for push intelligence. So everything we've talked about is a little more in the abstract and talking about functionality generally, but we want to cover more specific application in terms of use cases with real customers. So please feel free to join us. Again, everything's available on the blog. And other than that, thank you again for your time, and everyone have a great rest of their day.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ben.